Welcome to Online Lead Management, the basics. Let's start at the beginning, at the assignment of the lead. The first thing you're going to want to do is spend just a couple of minutes reviewing the information on the lead and the lead manager. There will be basic information such as the lead's name, phone number, email address, which will always be there. Then there's other information that may or may not be there. There may be an alternate phone number, office phone number. There may or may not be an address. If there's an address, make note of whether or not it's within the St. Louis area. It may be an out-of-town address, which would indicate this is someone relocating to St. Louis. To the right, you'll see the type of lead. It may already indicate that it's a buyer or a buyer and a seller or a seller, which also would give you some insight into the lead itself. Status should of course be active, and there may be other information. There may already be time frame or urgency filled in. Then you're going to want to look down here at this next row, right beneath the main fields. You'll see secondary contact, important notes, as well as source. Now, secondary contact may or may not have a green checkbox or check mark, and important notes may or may not have a green check mark. Now, source will always have something there. And source is worth noting because it'll give you, again, insight into what the lead may be interested in or looking for. For example, if the source says that the lead came from stlouislofts.com, that would be a clue that they're looking for a loft. stlouisvillas.com could indicate someone looking for a villa, and so forth. If either secondary contact or important notes is checked, you're going to want to click on the link in order to see the details. So for example, when I click on secondary contact, it'll show me a name of, in this case it appears to be a spouse. I have Dennis Tate and Glennon Tate. It may have additional contact information for that spouse. Under important notes, you can see that there's additional information. Generally what you'll have is in the notes box down here is some information on the home if they own the home. So if they're indicated, or if it's indicated that they are a seller or a buyer and a seller, you're likely to find information down here about the house. Just very, very basic info such as what's shown here. Perhaps when they bought it, maybe even what they paid for it, what the AVM is on it, sometimes the loan amount. So just some basic information to help give you a little bit of background before you engage with the lead. The other thing you're going to want to do is look down beneath that information at the activity history. Take a quick glance down through the activity history, which is chronological with the most recent activity at the top. See what they've done, what they've been looking at, see what the internal lead manager's done with it. Look over at the right for the activity summary. It may be fairly well blank like this, or it may have some information such as average property value of what they've looked at, etc. Then you're also going to want to click on the All Communications tab in the same section so that you can see in chronological order again all the communications that may have happened or that has happened between anyone at our company already and this client or this lead. And this will give you insight. If it's been handled by the inside salesperson, this will give you information as to what kind of conversations they had, as well as the information that was exchanged there. Once you have done that, you're ready to move forward. Best practices on working these leads are to make that introduction or confirmation call ASAP. It is worth going through that information I just reviewed, taking just a little bit of time in doing that, but then immediately call the lead, and depending upon how this was handed off to you, make the introduction of yourself or confirm that you're going to be the one meeting them at the showing or whatever is appropriate. But the key is to do that ASAP, as quick as possible after being assigned the lead. You're going to also want to follow up that phone conversation with a confirmation email or text as appropriate. So for example, if you're calling, maybe this is a Thursday and the inside lead manager has already set up a an appointment for you to show a property on Saturday afternoon. You're basically calling on Thursday to introduce yourself and confirm you're going to be the one meeting them there Saturday. Perhaps you ask if there's other properties they'd like to see at the same time. You just do whatever you need to do to spend a little bit of time with them building some rapport. Well, after you get off the phone, it'd be a very good idea to send them an email, just a follow-up that you enjoyed talking with them on the phone, whatever you want to say to kind of confirm that conversation, or refer to the conversation and confirm that you're all set for Saturday. Give them the information again. I will see you at 1 o'clock at whatever the property address is. Perhaps even send them a Google map link directly to the property to make it easy on them. And once again, give them your contact information and stress to contact you if they have any questions. You may also want to send another text or email that morning of the showing just to confirm it. Remember, these people that are coming to us from our website or one of our many websites, they are most likely bouncing around a lot of websites. So you want to make sure you keep that communication going with them, keep confirming and reminding them who you are, and confirming that they are set to work to meet you or whatever you've got planned. And I'd also keep reiterating that you can help them with any other houses that they see or any other information or questions that they have. Now, it's very, very important, especially since we have multiple people working on these leads. We have myself, we have inside salespeople or salesperson, we have you. There may be multiple people making entries or working with this lead, so it's very, very important that all the activity gets logged in the lead. So every call that's made, every time a message is left, you're going to want to log it. It really doesn't take much time. Over in the activity box, when you click on Add an Activity, you'll see a drop-down box comes down with various choices. Pretty self-explanatory. Called, left voicemail, bad number, met in person, etc. It's very easy to log calls. You're going to want your lead manager open anyway when you're following up these leads or when you're making the initial contact. So it's very easy to record these things, and if you do it real time while they're happening, it's literally one click. So if you call a lead and there's really nothing worth recording, you don't necessarily need to make any notes, which you do have the ability to make the notes, but if you just want to log that you've called them, then just click called and then click save. It'll automatically log the date and time right here. Now, if you happen to be doing it after the fact, please go back and put the right date and time in when you're doing it. If you leave someone a voicemail, click left voicemail, hit save, and you're done. It's very, very easy. If you make 4 phone calls in the course of the afternoon, please log them all. We do use that. The system uses the information, and we'll use the information. It's critical, too, because if our inside lead manager sees that you have made 3 or 4 call attempts and has not contacted the lead, they may not call them and bug them. We don't want to aggravate the people. However, if it only looked like you made 1 call attempt, then our inside sales manager or lead manager may be calling them as well. So it's very, very important we have this communication, and the best way to communicate is by logging all this activity. If you meet them, once you meet them to show them a property, you're not going to log this at the time you're doing it, but after the showing, as soon as you're done, take a second, go back into your activity in the lead manager, log that you met in person, put the correct date and time that you met them, and put in the notes section what properties you showed them, and just make whatever notes. This is a great place to record notes about their likes and dislikes or other things you learned about them, or you can put that in the important notes, but you definitely want to log the activity. The other thing you want to do as you go along is you want to and this is not a one-time deal either, you want to update urgency and time frame. And remember that this could change. So just because you've done it once doesn't mean you don't ever want to go back and visit this again. Urgency changes over time, as does their time frame of the lead. So for starters, on the, I'm sorry, I said urgency and time frame. I also want to keep the status up to date. And you'll see for status, that's pretty simple. There's active, in escrow, closed escrow, and dead. Active is pretty much everyone in our system that we haven't applied one of the other statuses to. In escrow, once you do write a contract with the lead, please change it to an escrow. Once they have closed on the purchase or the sale, please change it to closed escrow. If you get to the point that the lead is just absolutely dead, and we save dead for almost the meaning in the physical sense. Dead from this standpoint, from a status, means you don't think there is any possibility of ever doing business with this person. So even if we think it's 4 years out that they might do something, we don't make them dead. We just go ahead and leave them active. But you want to keep that status up to date. You also want to keep the time frame up to date. Time frame is very self-explanatory here. It can be everything from immediately to a year or more. Now, if you're getting this as a warm lead, it should be somewhere in this category, from about maybe 60, 90 days or sooner. But as this changes, please keep it up to date. It may initially be 90 days, but after you've worked with them 60 days, if at that point they're only 30 days out, you're going to need to update this. Then urgency is critical, that urgency stays up to date. Urgency, like the rest of them, there's a drop-down box with various choices, which I'm going to go through here in a minute. And again, urgency, like the other things as well, or could change as well. They may start out warm and go from warm to hot. They may go from warm to cold. So it's something to pay attention to. A good practice is every time you get into the lead, just get in the habit of doing a little scan of the information up here and make sure everything's still current. Now, as far as urgency, as with all these things, it's critical that everyone within our company that touches this system or works within this system does it consistently. Because if we're not consistent, we're just going to confuse each other, and one won't know what the other one means. If we stay consistent, then we can all get benefit from this information in the system. So when you are updating urgency, here is what you want to use as a guide. First off, if it's blank, that means we have never been able to have a two-way conversation with the lead. Now, if you're getting it as a warm lead, it shouldn't be blank. If you're getting it as warm lead, it's probably starting out as warm. But the other urgency statuses are cold. And if it's cold, that means we have a possibility, no matter how slight, of doing business with them at some point. If it's warm, we have a good possibility of doing business with them. Maybe not immediately, but they are a live lead and appear to be serious about doing something. Hot, we have a good possibility of doing business with them soon. They're a live lead and are ready to do something. Contacted means that we have been able to connect with them, but there is no possibility we will do business with them ever. They are absolutely wasting time. They have an agent or whatever. Don't ever use not contacted. But so these are the different choices you'd have for urgency. And please try to stay consistent with these definitions and try to keep them up to date. Another thing that's very important for everyone working in the system is to update the information as you go. Now, when you first get the lead assigned, it may have a lot of information in it already, depending on the age of it or how long the lead's been around, or it may have very little information. Sometimes our inside lead manager will hand it off very quickly because it'll be somebody that's contacted us, says they want to do something now. We are not going to take the time to do a bunch of research on it. We're going to hand it off pretty quick. So you always want to be looking in the lead, see what information is there, update it as you go. For example here, if somebody, this is a seller lead, if it's a seller lead and the source is a property valuation and there's no address shown for them, you're going to want to look down through their activity like we talked about a little earlier and see what they did a property valuation on. This may very well give you the property they own. A lot of times people do a property valuation on their own home. So as you see here, there's an address down there. If you get an address for the lead, whether it be because they did a property valuation on it or in conversation with them, you learn where they live, or maybe you do your own research and you run their name through Realist or something and you find it. However you get it, you want to update the address information as you get it. You also, as you can see there, this is labeled as a seller. If the lead was a type was buyer, and you discover one way or the other after you get the lead that they're in fact own a property too, so they're a potential seller too, then you're going to want to change the type from a buyer to a buyer and seller, which is one of the choices. If they're labeled as a buyer and come to find out all they are is a seller, they're going to sell and move out of town, then change it to seller. But the point is you want to update this info as you go. Now before you go sticking this address in here, like this one, which was evaluation, confirm that the lead actually owns that address. Easy enough to do in Realist. So if I saw that they had checked the value of this property here on Studer Lane in this case, I'd go to Realist, look it up, see if the name matches the lead, and if so, I'd enter in this address. Now I can also gather some other information too, because you can see here I'm picking up a wife's name as well. And like I showed earlier, you may pick up some other information such as when they bought it, what they bought it for, and the AVM. Take a minute and put this information in there. It'll save you a bunch of time later. If the lead ends up wanting to talk about their home and what it may be worth, if you don't have a clue and your answer has to be, oh, well, I'll get back with you, I mean, that's okay, but that's not as good as at least understanding this or saying, hey, you've owned it, what, about 3 years? I think you bought it back in 2012. You know, you can use this information to show them you're very informed. Also, you can see, like here, take the time to put the spouse's name in as secondary contact as well. Now, something else, you're going to want to use the lead management system for your communication. You're going to have it open when you're making phone calls. Plus, you're going to want to actually use the system itself to send out texts and emails. This is the best way to do it for several reasons. For one, deliverability. Well, for the texting, it's very easy to do, and the email is easy too. But for email, deliverability. These go out as plain text emails, and there's a better chance that they're not going to be spam or appear to be spam, that they'll get through. If you do everything through the system, all the times, the time and date that these are sent, as well as the contents of the message, are automatically recorded, so it saves time. And so it's the best way to do it. It's very easy to do it from that activity box, just like where we were logging activities earlier. You would click, in this case, email, if I want to send an email. And by now you should have some template emails set up. And you can easily start with one of the template emails or blank email by clicking New Blank Email. If it's a text, you're going to want to click the Text tab. And then you can then just click on Open Text Chat. And from there, you'd have a chat box open up, and you could type in the message and hit Send. The other thing that's very important to do for several reasons is to set follow-ups and use follow-ups. In that same activity box, you'll see Add Follow-up. Now, follow-ups are important for two reasons. One, they help you follow up. They're a reminder. And by now, your account should be linked to your calendar. If it's not, you want your account linked to your calendar so you get the reminders. But when you set follow-ups, it'll help you remember to go back and stay in touch and follow up whatever you are wanting to follow up, or stay in touch with the person. And the other thing it does, though, is it communicates to the system that you're on the lead. It also communicates to our inside lead manager, as well as us, that you're on the lead. So there'll be less likelihood that a lead will be pulled back because it appears it's not being attended to if you keep this up to date. You know, maybe you have a lead that you want to hang on to, but they've told you through communication they're 6 or 9 months down the road, or they're going to wait till next spring or something. No problem. Note that in there, make their time frame reflect that, and then also set yourself a follow-up to stay in touch with them once a month, maybe a recurring follow-up, or just one follow-up to contact them next May or whatever. And when we see this in here, we'll know that you're on it. We'll be able to see that, okay, this is set up, this is kind of on autopilot. Now, when you set these follow-ups, you can see that there's a drop-down box for what type of follow-up, whether it's a call or email or whatever. You can put a title in there, put some notes in, and you can make it a one-time follow-up on a specific date at a specific time by just clicking in there, or you can make it a recurring follow-up. Maybe it's somebody that you just want to stay in touch with once a month. Set it up from the beginning. Stay in touch with them once a month for perpetuity. Now, something else, communicate with the internal sales lead manager. You want to keep that communication going. Now, the best way, or I don't know about best way, but one of the main ways you'll communicate with him is by updating the leads. When you update the leads, log your activity, log everything you do, you are communicating with everyone involved, which is great. But then also keep the lead manager, the internal or inside lead manager up to date too on what's going on so that he can help you. Now, best practices here would be stay in touch with the lead manager, the inside lead manager, and if the lead does go cold, you can send it back to him to warm it up. If you get to the point where maybe, because, and this does happen, maybe they're not as anxious to do something as they were, they've kind of put, buying or selling on the back burner, or for whatever reason, they've went cold on you, go ahead and send it back so it can be warmed up. Once the lead's warmed up, it'll come back to you. And there you go. Happy selling. Thank you.